September 1st, 2018. This was the day my high school best friend decided to take his own life. I'm having a hard time piecing this video together because new memories come to my mind each hour I think about him. And for brief moments, it feels like I can reach out to him again. It's hard to remember someone you love when you know you won't see them again. At least, not in this lifetime.
That's not it.
After making this video, I'll probably go back to my normal life, but for now I feel like there's a lot I can share with you that isn't just sad and happy memories. Something from my life that could help you out in yours. There's a lot of mental progression from the year he took his life until now. My whole worldview is different now, and part of me believes if I knew then what I knew now, maybe I would have never lost him. I met Justin in my junior high science class. He sat at a table with me and one of my other best friends at the time, Jackson. We slowly grew close over class projects and small jokes. I remember the first thing I ever told him was he looked like Zach and Cody from that Disney Channel show. He laughed but disagreed. He was a very sarcastic person and I knew we'd get along well. As soon as I saw he could match my jokes that most people would think you're on the spectrum if you said out loud. Our first time me and him hung out outside of school was for a class project where we had to film a skit. It was about God only knows what to this day. I couldn't tell you, but it did lead to one of the only moments I'd ever get next to him on camera.
It's too bad. You're gonna have to get the money by the end of this week or you're out. Guess I can put my diamonds in the mine.
Make sure to get as many photos and videos with your friends as you can. I promise you, you'll never regret it. After filming, we ended up going on a longboard ride around our junior high and high school neighborhoods. And there we learned deeper about each other's lives. He told me about his goals in life. He told me about the content creators he liked and why he loves his hobbies like gaming, specifically Overwatch at the time. He was oddly very good at Overwatch. I think he was a Bastion main, if I remember correctly. As the sun started setting, I told him I'd board home with him to make sure he got home safe. From here on out was where I felt a real bond with Justin. I started to notice the real nature of his mind. He rarely had a single negative thing to say about a single thing or person. And if you talked bad about someone he cared about, he'd make sure to throw in a compliment about them right after. I've met very few people with that trait in my life. Justin had a very calming energy and very comforting, and he was always trying to make you laugh. His favorite color was orange. I think that's very fitting.
No, this guy. What's your name?
Hey, Justin, I love
Justin.
you.
How old are you? 16, front row, Justin!
Justin had a very high potential and ceiling for what he was capable of achieving in this life. In a lot of ways, he was ahead of me in everything I wanted to do. He was following all of these content creators on Instagram that I wasn't tapped in with until after he died. He even went to meet Casey Neistat on his trip to New York, and this was like prime Casey Neistat. He was always very lucky with meeting people he wanted. The other day while I was writing this video, I was skimming through his Instagram following, and I found his account he created for his gaming and streaming. It even had the Twitch link in bio. This was before so many people even thought of doing it. Keep in mind he passed away in 2018. He was 16 at the time. My point in saying this is that Justin had so much potential. He had a hard time realizing it towards the end. He was going through a breakup that ended very harsh and abruptly. Based on what I know now, the breakup wasn't the only factor leading up to his decision. Sometimes now I wonder that if Justin saw the potential of bringing his dreams to life, then death wouldn't have been an option. There's not much separating you from the people you look up to besides consistently trying. September 1st, 2018. This was the day Justin Scott decided to take his own life.
One more week. Things are out in hand.
It's also the day my youngest brother was born. I say this not to stray away from the main story, but to tell you that there's a positive in everything. Even in the worst situation you can imagine. It took me years of suffering to realize this. Some people are going to watch this and be saying, how is there anything positive in murder or taking your own life? I'll explain, but before I do, bear with me because this story's gonna get darker before it gets better. 2 days before Justin took his life, he posted something on a Snapchat story. He said something I can't remember specifically, but it was something that insinuated that he was sad. I then replied telling him he can talk to me about anything, and after probably 10 to 20 minutes of making sure he was okay, I went to bed. I saw him at school the next day in between one of our classes. Where this building is right now is where me and Justin said bye for the final time in between one of our classes, and I gave him a hug. I don't know why I did, but I'm very glad I did. That was the final time I saw Justin, was right here. Later that night, Justin posted another Snapchat story. All it said was the word goodbye with a black screen behind it. I don't remember exactly what I said to the story, probably something along the lines of "Don't be sad, tomorrow will be fun." If I knew it was the final thing I'd say to him, I would have made it better. The next morning I woke up around 10 to 11 and I went to play basketball. And before I could even shower once I was back, I got a call from my friend Isaac. He said, "Did you hear what happened to Justin?" I casually replied asking what he meant. He told me the church called his mom, and they told him that Justin took his life that morning. His dad was a pilot, I'm pretty sure. He wasn't home at the time, I heard. I heard his mom just asked him if he wanted McDonald's. I heard he broke into his parents' gun storage and decided to make a decision he could never take back. I also heard he made the decision to stop taking antidepressants that week. I heard he said he didn't want happiness to come from a pill, and that he wanted his happiness to be real. And for a while, I couldn't blame him for the decision. I heard mixed opinions about the choice to take his own life. Some people told me that taking your own life is selfish. Others told me that we can't judge him because we don't know what he's going through. Maybe both people were right. I mean, to abandon the people who have shown you love your whole life? What ignorance. I mean, could he have not known what I'd go through the weeks after? I remember everyone at my house the next day sitting on my couch crying as I puked into a bowl because of my migraine. I ran out of tears at that point. Thoughts you place in my brain after thinking this is now an option. I mean, after all, I was an atheist at the time. There wasn't anything after this life in my head. Why would I need to go through days without happiness when you already opted out? Battles constantly played in my mind because I knew nothing about death. At some point, I knew after seeing the effects his death had that taking my life was no longer an option. I mean, how could I do that to my grandma? She made the choice to bring me in when my parents didn't take care of me. She doesn't deserve to go through that. To give my brothers a life of heartbreak? How could this ever be the option? I'd suffer a whole lifetime just to make sure the people I love are happy. I found true faith in God some years after Justin passed away. I found it after I started questioning reality more. Bedside conversations with an old soulmate filled my curiosity. What happens when we die? What's the purpose of life? Are people brought into our lives for a reason? What happens to your soul if you take your own life? An answer that stung my mind but also gave me a sense of relief. She told me that a soul that's taken its own life in the material world will be so traumatized that it will never consider it again. I felt pity knowing that my friend would still suffer from that choice, but found relief knowing his soul still lives on. I learned the full extent of the torment a soul goes through during my trip to Thailand after a conversation with a female monk.
According to the Vedas, the most sinful act you can possibly commit is oneself, and that's taking your life in your own hands and prematurely your life. There's so many prohibitions, like in Vedic culture, that departed soul has to suffer the reaction of their actions by living in a long-term, like, ghost body. One has to become like a ghost and spend the rest of their years, however long their life would have been. They have to live where they're hungry, they can't eat, they're thirsty, they can't drink. They want to smoke, they want to take, intoxication, but they can't because they don't have a body to do it in. So it's a very uncomfortable, long situation where they're living without a body. They've taken their own body at their own expense and have to be in a very uncomfortable, long waiting period. And even there is some extended period, because to every action there's equal and opposite reaction with interest. So one will be very unhappy to find out that they think they're escaping. They're trying to put an end to their suffering, but they're increasing their suffering. So if people only knew this is not an option.
Losing someone I love has always been one of my greatest fears. But the Bhagavad-gita says, weapons cannot pierce the soul, and fire cannot burn it. Water cannot wet it, and air cannot dry it. It is eternal. The soul dwelling within the bodies of all living beings is eternal and cannot be slain. Therefore, you need lament for no one. Their body might not be here with you now, but are they really gone? Taking your life never really feels like the answer because it's not. We have been blessed with a loving world around us. God has placed obstacles in front of us to progress our soul. And taking our life isn't the answer. It only leads to more suffering. We should try to find the good in everything. Knowing that God is behind every moment should give us a newfound peace. It's the final piece of Stoicism. I remember recently somebody told me that we're so lucky to have a loving creator. I may have lost my best friend in this life, but I stuck around and got new ones. I've traveled the world and been to places a younger me would have dreamed of. I have family and friends who did make it another day. I get the opportunity to progress with them and enjoy new moments that make me fall in love with being alive. But most of all, I have the ability to comprehend that God is real. What else could I ask for in this life?